So let's just start here. I'll just tell you about my recent trip to Israel.
Okay.
So I was in Israel. Tel Aviv is amazing, and then I got to Jerusalem, and it was Friday morning. So I met up with my mother who was there, and they went to the shuk, and the energy was just super high. It was like everybody was just like grabbing last minute things for the Shabbos, right? And it was super chaotic in a certain way. Like it was like little bees running around, and then the energy dropped because the Sabbath starts and everything's closed, which was an amazing experience in itself. Um, what was also interesting was I went to the Kotel, the Western Wall, and I realized that like I just got there and I started crying, and it was like I could release, I could surrender, and what came of it was a really deep sense of grounding in self, which I haven't really felt for quite a while now in that way. And it was incredible. I mean, it was really profound because I feel very much more grounded and much more focused on the things that I have to do and achieve. And I guess I wonder, could you share a little bit about what it means to be grounded and ground the techniques, you know?
Mm, Sure. So first we have to clear something up about the language. Because I've led workshops where people, doesn't happen a lot, but it's happened, where people say, I don't really want to feel grounded. I want to feel enlivened. I want to feel uplifted. I want to feel let go. Um, so I use the word grounded too. And I use it because there is a sense, and I think this is one of the important, most important, one of the most important principles is that we simultaneously live on the physical plane and the ethereal plane. And what happens is either we go through life like not knowing anything about metaphysics, about the ethereal plane, about our our subtle existence, and this is all there is. We have to do this, we have to go there, all of that physical stuff. And and that's of course real. Or and sometimes you hear this stuff from people. It's like, no, 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 I don't want to talk about any of that. Meditation, I want to be out there. I want to be up here. I want to be, in this altered state. And for me, the juggle, if you will, the task of daily living is to find a way to balance those two realities. And so what we tend to do is separate, is compartmentalize. And so when you're saying that you were able to, maybe this is not exactly how you said this, but what I heard is you were able to settle into yourself. So we have, for purposes of discussion, contemplation, we have more than one self. We have this personality. We have this body. We have this individuated, limited, mortal person. That's true. I mean, I know people who will argue with me about that. And they'll say, yeah, but it's all an illusion. We're just really, pure consciousness and light and all of that stuff. And it's like, give me a break. We are that. We are that, but we're also this. We have relationships. We have bodies. We have problems. We have challenges. We have successes. We have all that stuff. We live in the world. And we also carry around with us, in essence, an inner world. And how do we find a way to balance both of those? And I would say increasingly at the same time. How do we simultaneously live as I am consciousness, I am divine light, I am love. At the very same time, I'm me and I have challenges like everybody. So when we're talking about grounding, I think for the purposes of this discussion, I think what we're talking about is being centered. How do I center myself? Whoever I am, whatever I am, wherever I am, whenever I am, how do I center myself? In my essence, from which I can live in this world and do all the things and respond to all the things and address all the challenges and hang out with all the people and deal with everything good, bad, or indifferent, be with it. How do I do that? All at the same time. So what happens is when we get challenged by life, we go into this kind of primitive evolutionary cycle of, some people call it fight or flight, some people call it fight, flight, or freeze, call it an autonomic response, which just means automatic, which is how all these physical responses to stress or a real or perceived threat, the body goes into overdrive. So how do we bring it down? How do we bring it back? That's one scenario. The other scenario is, I'm having this incredible experience. I'm so inspired. I'm in such a lofty state that I don't even know what day it is. The bills are piling up. The mail is sitting in the mailbox. I'm not answering my phone because I'm in such an enlightened state. I'm so elevated. So in both of those scenarios, we want to come back home. We want to come back into our own self. I just have to do one little thing that I've discovered, which is that my batteries. Yep. So the low battery is a metaphor.
Right. Okay.
You know, we run out of steam. We get overwhelmed. Or we're so far at one pole or the other, because ultimately, actually, there are no poles. There's only this one reality.
What do you mean by there's no poles?
Well, we tend to feel like either I'm doing fine on the physical plane, or I'm completely challenged and overwhelmed through one lens. Through another lens, I'm doing fine in my life. I'm functioning well. I'm productive. I'm achieving. I'm handling things. But I feel disconnected. So those are those are two models for the pendulum swing, right? And what we want to do is find that centered place. What I'm translating from, you're using the word grounded, to that centeredness, and that it's both still and active. I think this is the great misconception. I said in one of my classes recently, if you've been told that meditation will still your mind, it's a hoax. It's a hoax, because maybe it'll still your mind. Maybe it'll enliven you. Maybe you'll think more. Maybe you'll think more uplifted thoughts. Maybe you'll think more productive thoughts, efficient thoughts. Maybe the goal isn't to still your mind. And I know that there's, thousands of years of spiritual teaching, Patanjali, that yoga, which really means union, yoga, is the stilling of the movements of the mind. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying that's not the goal. The goal is, how do we learn, how do we cultivate our inner self, our inner being, so that at any moment, no matter what's going on, we can tap into it. So to me, that's what grounding or centering means. That whatever the need is, I need to calm down, I go inside, I tap in. So it needs to be loving, I tap in. I need to respond, I tap in. I need to be loving, I tap in.
Is there a certain dynamicism to the ground, the tapped in inner self that we can get to? Because my fear is that, or my experience until recently, and it's that, or it's happened occasionally, right? That I'm living so presently, or I'm trying to be so present in the world, that I'm not even aware of the inner side until I need it, right? So I'm not cultivating it until there's a difficulty, or there's something that I need to start refocusing, or maybe there's a mindset I need to get to because of work or ambition or so on and so forth. But there's a dynamicism of calm and space that we can work on within, right?
Well, it is dynamic. What I like to say is, you want to cultivate it in those moments when you don't need it. That's what practice is. So what practice is, and we all do what you're describing, I'm dealing with all this stuff. You're kind of saying to your inner self, shut up. I don't need you right now. What I need right now is, I need focus, I need engagement, I need tasks, I need accomplishment. And if you were to respond to yourself authentically, you would say, I do believe, as my experience, you would say, you want all that? Turn within. That's the doorway. All day long? No. Every day? Yes. For how long? It doesn't matter.
Right.
That's why I part company. with all these systems that I admire. I do. I respect them. But people show up and they say, I signed up for the system of meditation and I really liked it and it was great for me for, and this is honest. This is real data. People will say a few weeks, people will say a few months, people will say a few years, people will say a decade. But I can't or won't set aside whatever the prescription is, 25 minutes morning and night, every single day of my life. I can't do that. A lot of people say that. And there are people that do it, and that's fine. But that isn't what's necessary. What's necessary is the activity, the practice, to go inside. It's as simple as a breath break. It's that simple. People say to me all the time, it's really that simple? It really is that simple. I'm not making it up. It's the truth. If you're one of those people, and there are many, who need a system, great. Who need the discipline, great. Who do well with it, great. I'm a non-system person. And I've learned, when I started meditating, I meditated for like an hour in the morning, an hour at night, like every day. And there were special programs that I was in where I meditated maybe, more than 2 hours a day, maybe 4 hours a day, maybe most of the day, with other practices like chanting or contemplation, postures. And for some people, it's great to have, and I'm going to use a word that I hate about meditation. Some people like that high dose of meditation. I don't like the word dose when it comes to meditation. It's not a drug. It's actually our natural state. So it's the most natural activity. It's to just take a moment. Eyes open, eyes closed. Any way, any single way, or any group of ways that resonate with you in a given moment. So sometimes people like to say a mantra. Sometimes people like to drop into their heart. Sometimes people like to notice their breath. Sometimes people like to notice the space between their breaths, or allow a space to come in between your thoughts, or focus on an image. And all of these can be elaborated on. I use them all, I teach them all. But that doesn't matter either. The how doesn't matter. The why matters. When people say happy for no reason, there's a reason. The reason is that we have joy inside of us. It's there. I translate that because our joy attaches to people, to events, to feelings, circumstances. This makes me happy. This makes me not so happy. But the joy's in there. And we know, anybody who's meditated for a while, we know that sometimes when you meditate, you tap right into that. Other times it's just quiet. Other times it feels radiant. And maybe some people have more of one kind of experience than another. Well, that's fine. So the answer is, yeah, it's dynamic. It's both dynamic and still. It's like a pool of water.
Right. There's undercurrent, but it's
There's an undercurrent. It looks like nothing's happening, but there's movement. There's a current or an undercurrent. It looks like the pendulum. How still was the pendulum? It might settle in front of you, like in front of your heart even. And maybe it's moving infinitesimally. So slightly, it looks like it's still, but it's not. That's the inner experience for me. There's this great statement in the Bhagavad Gita, one of my favorites, that we should cultivate action in inaction and inaction in action. What does that mean? It means that when we're active in the world, we're coming from the stillness. We're coming from the center. That there's a foundation of strength, of stillness. Outside, it looks like this, maybe. May not be chaotic, but it looks busy. But inside, there's a stillness. And the opposite of that is that when we're still, it's an active stillness. And we know that now from brain studies. When I started meditating, next month, it'll be 48 years. When I started, people thought it was a passive activity. You're dropping out of the world. Maybe permanently. But certainly in meditation, what are you doing? You're dropping out. Yeah. Or really, you're dropping in. I mean, that's really what's happening. And we now know. Because we can now look at people's brains. And we can look at the brains of longtime meditators versus people that haven't meditated or people that have started meditating. And we see that there are certain regions of our brain, of our nervous system, that are fully active, that are really lit up when we're in a state of meditation. When our experience is that our mind is still. Right. And our brain is lighting up all of this. And it's not really all of it, because it's in certain regions, which may make us feel more connected, more whole, more alert, more focused. So, yeah, there's a dynamism to it. And I make a distinction between the act of meditation and the state of meditation. But I'm only making that distinction in the context of looking at these two realities as a dualism, as a duality. And in fact, it's non-dualistic. They coexist.
right.
It's like light and dark, high and low. You can't have one without the other. Yin and yang. They can't have one without the other. They can't. We pretend, but it's not true. And so the great Hasidic master, Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, said, what's the true peace? The true peace is the peace between the opposites.
Right. Middle.
That middle ground. So that's what we're cultivating. So yeah, we're cultivating the dynamism, but when we cultivate the dynamism, we're also cultivating the stillness. Because they travel together. That I think is the essential teaching. And the essential practice is taking moments to just tap into them. And as we're doing right now, we could even be having a conversation and be tapping it. Because I'm feeling that and I can see it in you.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing over the last few months. We haven't talked for a little while, just life, right? Um, it's been interesting because I've been looking at different aspects of the inner self and from different people's perspective. I've studied with a gentleman by the name of Mark Serto, and he looks at your inners. He is a different structure of your ego than, let's say, Freud or Jung. And even still, I've been reading a number of books which talk about um inner children and parents and teenagers, and this whole dynamic system that's totally within us from different experiences that we've held on to, and how to tap into, start talking to those experiences. And it's a whole mess of people that you know inside. But when you start tapping in, there's a discussion that can be happened, or a healing that can happen, or even a motivation type things within the dynamic of understanding that there's a lot going on, that from initial reactions, or initial, until you know about it, it's not accessible.
Right. And there are many systems, or we might say many lenses or perspectives to look through regarding the inner self. And there are thousands of years of literature and poetry and accounts of people's experiences. I try not to get involved in any of those. And any of those, you know, I mean, if you're drawn to the inner child, fine. I'm not, but I'm not putting that down. Um, and there are all these different systems which can, inform or elucidate people's experience. What I'm looking to do is to draw on all these traditions to simplify our experience, because it is simple. But people use meditation for creativity. People use it for athleticism, for accomplishment. People use it, using that word, for all kinds of reasons. And what I always say is, look, and you're an example of this, as somebody who had, migraines. If somebody says, well, I'm here to meditate because I'm anxious, you came to the right place.
Right.
I'm here to meditate because something's missing in life. You've come to the right place. I'm here to meditate because I want to be a better student, or a better boss, or a better worker, or a better artist, or a better person, or a better partner, a better parent, a better child, a better friend. You've come to the right place. This is the only place to come to. So any doorway you want to come through, you, anyone, is fine with me. And as I said to you before, increasingly for me, and it's still increasing, I am passionate and convinced that it doesn't matter what door you walk through. what lens you look through, except that it resonates with you.
Right.
It matters to you, that it's your experience. So when I'm teaching now, I offer everything. You might want to focus on an image, like a flame or a lotus or a sunset. You might want to drop into your heart, offer compassion. You might want to settle your mind on a sound, a mantra, a prayer, or on a movement. Or you might not want to focus on anything. You might want to let go of focus. You might want to let go of the thought that's arising, even as it's arising. Or the next thought before it comes in. It all takes you to the same place. So that's the best meditation.
Right.
I say all the time, somebody tells you my meditation is better than their meditation, look for the exits. Because it might be true for them. And that's fine. The best meditation is the meditation that resonates with you at this particular moment.
Right. Right. I mean, the meditation I used to do is not what I do every day now. I do a different one.
And people tell me all the time. I have people come in my classes. I offer this mantra, so which means I am that. What's the that with a capital T? It's that inner self. I have people come in my classes who said, I've been hearing you talk about this for like 2 years, and I've never repeated that mantra until today. And I love it. Or they'll come back the next week and say, this is what I'm doing now. And I say, great. Because I know like maybe in 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, 2 hours, something else will grab us. Equally wonderful. Not even just valid, but wonderful. Because we're finding our way. There's no right way to do this, and there's no wrong way to do it. The only wrong way is to not do it at all. Because we need this experience. Because it's who we are. We need that balance in our lives. So all of those particulars, which are sometimes, oh, you should do it my way. They're for us to find our way. A practice will grab us. And I've led orientations or introduction to meditation programs where I offer, multiple practices, a little taste of multiple practices. And at the end, we go around the room. And it's always the same. One person says, hated the imagery, loved the mantra. Next person says, love the imagery, hated the mantra. Next person says, I just want to offer love to the world. That really enlivened me. Next person will say, I just opened my mind to whatever was coming up. What some people call mindfulness. It's all good. And maybe tomorrow it'll be different.
Right. As it should be. As it should be. Because as we change, we need different. We need different. We need different. Yeah.
Look, after all these years, these decades meditating, it was only in the last maybe couple of years that I lit on the practice of letting go of the thought. Letting go of the thought information. Thoughts coming up. Like, oh, later I can let go of that. I don't have to complete the thought. Yesterday, somebody let go. So that's what I'm doing mostly, myself, in my practice, and I'm sharing it with other people. And some people are drawn to that. And wait for the next thought to come up. You don't have to make the next thought. Like, we don't know that. I'm telling you honestly, 40 plus years of meditation. And I had heard a lot about you can let go of thought and arrive at pure awareness, but nobody ever taught me how to do that. So I tripped over it. I stumbled over it. And I was like, oh, that's how you do it. You notice the thought coming up and you don't feed it. And you don't fight with it either. You don't stop it. You just let it dissolve. And for some people, I think that might be sophisticated. And for other people, that might be completely natural. So yeah, as you're saying, it's a continuous process of discovery.